hello. Good evening, everyone. How are you all? I hope you all are doing well. In today's session, we are going to discuss about Grade 8, Chapter 2, that is Invisible Living World. If you see around us, we can see a lot of things. Like if you see plants, you can see animals. But there are certain organisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes. For example, if you see a very polar region, very harsh climatic condition, still you can see one bacteria there. Leave that. Like if you see the COVID virus, which made a chaos all around the world, you cannot see it, but you can see the consequences. So there are so many organisms that is around us that we cannot see, but they do exist. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about these invisible materials or organisms around us. So everyone, it's all about the invisible living world beyond our naked eyes. So before starting the session, let me introduce myself. I'm Sneha. I'm biology master teacher here at SISYA class. I'm postgraduate in zoology from Andhra University. So everyone, if you want these kind of classes more, you can opt any kind of courses from the SISYA class. We have a lot of courses, like if you see here, we have booster course, we have SISYA topper class and math champ also. And very simple things you have to do here in order to enroll. You have to just go to sisyaclass.com LTC, and here you can choose the grade in which you are. Then you have to go for very simple steps. You have to just select the class. Then you have to just enter a phone number followed by the location, your city, your state. Then you can opt for roster course or demo courses just within 19 rupees only. So in this session, we have three major goals to be covered. So here we are going to discuss about cell, various components of it. Like we are going to discuss what are plasma membrane, what is cell wall, then what are the various organelles present in the cell, followed by microorganism. What is microorganism? We are going to deal with that. Here we are going to talk about the four major types of microorganisms along with virus. Then coming to the role of microorganisms, how they are affecting our life, how they are helpful. So here we are going to understand how they are acting as friend and how they are affecting our life. So friend and foe. Alright everyone. So first, coming to the invention of microscope. Everyone, since long time, the curiosity played a vital role. It was a key to know most of the things. So there are so many organisms that we cannot see, but we have to see that. We want to know what are they. So this pull for the invention of microorganisms. So people were curious to know organisms around them, which they cannot see with their naked eyes. They require a material, a structure or anything that can be helpful for them to see those things. So because we cannot see them, we were going for invention of microscope. So first, the invention of microscope was done by Robert Hooke in year 1665. So what happened here? Just listen like a story, everyone. So he invented this microscope which can zoom out these tiny objects 200 to 300 times. Imagine how strong it would be. So he wrote all his observation, whatever he have done. He wrote everything in a book called as Micrographia, and which included very detailed drawing of very tiny objects. What is this? Well, let's see. So what happened? Imagine 1665. So at that time, he took a observing material. What was his observing material? It was a oak tree. Okay. So what is the scientific name of oak tree? That is Quercus super. All right, everyone. So what did he do? He took the oak tree. And what did he choose? He chose the outer layer. What is that outer layer? That is the cork. That is the bark. Okay. So when he observed that bark under his own self-designed primitive microscope, it was a very basic microscope. So what did he observe? That these structures somewhat resembles the beehive. Okay, you would have seen the beehive, right? So it was somewhat similar to that structure, and he named it as celluli. So what is celluli? Celluli means little rooms in Latin language. Okay, he was the first one who coined the term cell. So what did he realize? He realized that all living organisms, it is a plant, it is an animal, it is a microorganism, everything are made up of cell only. And whatever he observed, he wrote that in the book, that is Micrographia. So now coming to the Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Everyone be clear here. If in your exams they are asking who discovered the cell, undoubtedly that is Robert Hooke. But if they are asking whether it is a dead cell or a living cell, the answer will vary. So the dead cell was discovered by Robert Hooke. Coming to the living cell, it was discovered by Anton von Leeuwenhoek in 1660s. So he was called as father of microbiology. So what is microbiology here, everyone? So micro means very small. Okay? Bio word is used for living. And logy. Logy means study. Study of what? Study of a tiny, small organisms. So that's why he was called as father of microbiology. So he first clearly observed these microorganisms, like here observed bacteria and blood cell. So the credit for discovery of the living cell goes to Anton von Leeuwenhoek by using his advanced microscope. So he used a single lens microscope basically, which is very well advanced than the one which was used by the Robert Hooke, right? Now coming to the cell. What is cell, everyone? So if you consider a house, okay, how do we construct a house? We use the smallest structure, or how do we going to construct a house? By using a brick. By using brick, you can form any structure, any house. Similarly, our body is like that. The smallest, the basic structure, basic functional unit is cell. So it carries all the functional necessary for survival of that organism. Be it is photosynthesis, be it is respiration, be it is breathing. For example, let's say take an example. For example, carbohydrates. Okay. So now carbohydrate is very complex in nature. Our body cannot use it directly. So there are certain things here we need to understand. So what is done here? The carbohydrate is digested into very simpler forms, that is glucose, right? So many reactions in our body takes place. These reactions are called as metabolism. Now, metabolism is further divided into two types. One is catabolism and the second one is anabolism. Now, what are these? So these are certain constructive process and certain destructive process that happens in our body. So if you see here, from carbohydrate to glucose, what is this? It's a destructive process. And such reactions happen in our body. And who is doing that? That is the cell. So that's why cell is also known as a basic structural and functional unit. Why structural and functional unit? If you see the smallest organism, what is the smallest organism? That is mycoplasma. Okay. So if you see the mycoplasma size, it is around 0.1 to 0.3 micrometers. And what is the largest animal? If you see the terrestrial one, we have elephant here. If you see the aquatic one, we have whale. So what I want to say here, be it is a microscopic organism or a giant elephant, all this organism, the structure of these organisms are made by the cell only. It is forming the structure of the entire organism. That is the meaning of structural here. Functional, I told you, so many reactions happen in our body and every cell has a certain function to do. That's why it is a basic structural and functional unit of life. Alright, everyone, now coming to the level of organization. Now let's understand in the term of apartment. So dear, if you see an apartment, let's say a group of rooms form a house. A group of house form a floor, let's say. Then a group of floors are forming an apartment, right? Similarly, in an organism, there are various levels of organism. So various levels of organization. Everyone, it is very, very important. So if you see, here we have 5 basic levels of organization. The cell. Till now we understood what is cell. It's a basic structural and functional unit of life, right? Now what is tissue? So tissue is a group of cells having a common specific function, along with that origin, everyone. Okay? For example, if you see cell, let's take an example like we have muscle cell. Okay? Muscle cell, muscle fiber. Then coming to the tissue, we have here muscle tissue. Then what is an organ? In our body, we have lot of organs. We have kidney, we have heart, brain, liver. So what is this? A group of tissue working together is called as organ. Example, we have heart, then we have kidney, brain. These are the examples. Now, a group of organs form the organ system, okay, having a common function. In our body, we have lot of organ system, like we have respiratory system, we have circulatory system, digestive system, excretory system, and every system has a function to do, right? For example, if you see the excretory system, which is involved in excretion of waste materials, purification of blood, right? So now these organ systems all together work together to form the entire organism, like we have here humans, right? So these are the various levels of organization. The first basic one is cell. Then we have tissue, organ system, then entire organism. So this is the various level of organization. Everyone in your exams, they usually ask what are the various levels of organization. You have to write the definition along with the examples. All right, everyone. So here we have one example like cell. Then a cell group to form a tissue. Then here we have a setup of the digestive system. So tissue group together to form the organ. Example, here we have stomach. And what is the function of stomach? Usually involved in digestion. Then here organ group to form the organ system. Here we have digestive system. If you see here, see I told you it's a group of organs. So if you see here, we have here stomach. Then here we would be having liver, small intestine, large intestine, and so on, right? Then organ system, a group of organ system from the entire organism. So I hope everything is clear till now. Levels of organization is clear, everyone. Let me see. Any doubt till now? Anyone? Okay, let me check for the comments. Anyone? All right, let's move forward. So here on the basis, what is the basis here? The basis is the function. So on the basis of function, the shape of the cells will vary. For example, if you see muscle cell, it is spindle shape. What is spindle shape? If you see the structure here, it is somewhat like this. If you see at the middle, okay, it is somewhat thick, and at the either side, you can see a tapering ends. So when we have tapering ends on either side and the middle part is somewhat elongated, we call it as a spindle shape. So this muscle cell, it is involved in contraction and relaxation. Why contraction and relaxation? So that the organism can move, right? What is movement? When a person can, like here I'm standing, I can like change, like for example, if I'm moving my hands, I'm talking, right? This all are movement, okay? Then coming to the nerve cell. For example, I'm sending a nerve impulse, okay? For example, my neuron is sending certain impulse, right? It has to receive lot of stimulus. What is stimulus? It's a change in the environment. So in order to transmit something, it cannot be very short because it has to travel a long distance, right? So it transmit message and signal across the body. That's why they need to be long and branch so that it can receive lot of stimulus, right? So here what is stimulus? It is the change in the environment, okay? Change in the environment, okay? It can be anything. Then there are cheek cells. Now I'm not taking out the entire cheek cell. So basically here I'm just scrapping the inner cells of the cheek. So if you see that it is thin and flat. Why thin and flat? It is majorly involved in protection. It forms a protective layer, right? So on the basis of the function, if you see here, the shape is varying. Then plant cell. So if you see, the cells here are of various shapes. It can be rectangular, elongated, oval, depending on the structures. And here it is involved in carrying water. What is here? Which one is carrying water? That is the xylem. Okay? Clear? Then various cells present in the digestive system which are involved in the digestion, which are involved in producing digestive juices, acids for breaking down food. For what? For digestion. Right? Then if you see the food pipe, which is esophagus, okay? So esophagus, the smooth muscles which lines the esophagus are spindle shaped. What is the function here? They contract and relax. What is this called as? This is called as peristalsis. So what is peristalsis? It's a contraction and relaxation of the smooth muscles of the esophagus. And what happens with that? It will push the food towards the stomach. Right? Alright, now coming to the cellularity. What is cellularity? So what is the basis here? So basis is number of cells. Whether an organism is made up of single cell or two cells or more than that, we have divided the cells or organism into two types. One is unicellular and the second one is multicellular. So let's see what is the difference. Everyone, I want your full focus here. So uni means what? First let's try to decode the meaning. Uni means single or one. Okay? If an organism is made up of one cell, a single cell only, we call it as unicellular organism. Multi means what? Many. What is it? If it is made up of two or more than that, we call it as a multicellular organism. Right? So organism made up of single cell, unicellular. If it is made up of more than one, two or more than that, we call it as multicellular organism. One cell performs all life process. What does it mean? It is a respiration, it is a digestion, it is excretion. These all are the physiological processes that helps the organism to survive. Now these all physiological processes are performed by this single cell here only, right? But if you see on the either side, here we have multicellular organism. Here we see the division of labor. What is division of labor, everyone? So, just first let's try to decode the meaning here. So, labor means what? Work, right? And division means what? Separation, right? So, here, if case of multicellular organism, there is a division of labor. Every cell has a specific work to do. Every organ has specific work to do and they will do that only. So here we have level of organizations. For example, if you take, let's say heart. Okay, what is the function of heart? Pumping of blood. Then kidney, here it is involved in purification. Brain, whatever I'm teaching, your brain is processing that. So every organ has a work to do and they will do that work only. Right? For example, let's understand even in a very simpler. Okay, you would have watched, let's say Bahubali. Okay, so who all haven't watched? Everyone. So it was directed by Rajamouli, right? So now can Rajamouli alone can complete the entire movie? No, it's not possible. So what they do, they made various departments. Like let's say one department would be taking care of camera. One would be taking care of VFX. One would be taking care of sounds, right? Now all these departments will work together for the completion of the movie. Similarly, in our body also, there is a division of work. And here, everything, every cell, every organ system has a specific work to do. And they will do that only. Now, it's not like that heart will come up to the kidney or kidney will come up to the heart and say, heart, you have pumped enough blood, now you take rest, I'll start pumping the blood. No, it's not going to work. So, every organ system, cell, tissue has a specific work to do and they will do that. So that is called as division of labor, which is seen in case of multicellular organisms. And if you see here in unicellular, it is up to the organelle levels only. Example of unicellular organism, we have here amoeba, paramecium, bacteria, yeast. So basically yeast belong to the fungi only. So most of the fungi are multicellular, but here we have an exception, that is the yeast. Then coming to the multicellular organisms, like we have humans, animals, plants. These are the example of multicellular organisms. Any issue till now, anyone? Is it clear? Any issue? Okay, let me check. All right, fine. Okay. So now coming to the main parts of a cell. No matter what, if you are taking a living cell, be it as a microscopic organism, be it a plant, be it as an animal, basically every cell has three basic features. So what are these three basic features? So the outermost layer of the cell is a plasma membrane, right? So plasma membrane. Then here in the center we have the nucleus. Then the jelly-like substance here, it is the cytoplasm. Alright everyone, so these are the three basic features of every cell. Now yes, there are various other things that is beyond this, like outside the plasma membrane we have cell wall, we will discuss, okay? But every cell has these three basic features, right? So the first one here, we have the cell membrane, alright? So cell membrane is also known as plasma membrane or plasma lemma also. So what is this? So it is a thin flexible layer. It is living, okay? So it is thin flexible layer forming the boundary of the cell. So if you see here, this is forming the boundary of the cell, all right? A part of this, it also separates one cell from another. If you see here, it is forming boundary. What does it mean? It is making a barrier between the inner content. Okay, this is the inner content of the cell with the environment. Okay, a part of this, it is also separating the cell content from the other cell. Getting my point? It is porous. Why porous? Because it is semi-permeable and selective in nature. What does it mean? Selective in nature. So, for example, let's say, will you allow strangers in the house? No, right? Will you allow your mother's or your mama's or your dad's friend? Yes, but till the hall. Will you allow your best friend, your parents in your bedroom? Yes, definitely, you have to. So here you are selecting who can enter your room and who can exit your room. Similarly, this cell membrane is like that, selective in nature. Like here it is deciding which ions, which molecules will enter into the cell and which will leave the cell. Okay? It is semi-permeable. Semi means what? Semi means half. Okay? Permeable means what? Allowing something. So it is not allowing every molecule. It is allowing only certain molecules to enter and exit. That's why selective in nature. Okay? Now coming to the cytoplasm. The jelly-like substance, if you see here, this is a cytoplasm. So it is a jelly-like substance present between the cell membrane and the nucleus. If you see here, this is the cell membrane, right? In the center, we have the nucleus. This one, this region, here we have the jelly-like substance, that is the cytoplasm. So this is basically the main arena. It is the main site where most of the cellular activities are performed. In your exams, they usually ask, what is the main arena of the cellular activities? That is the cytoplasm. Now, a part of this, it contains various compounds like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and minerals. If you see cytoplasm, it is made up of two things. Like it has two compositions. Like if you see here, we have cytosol, then we have cell organelles. Okay. So cytosol is the clear part in which which the cell organelles are suspended. Every cell organelle has a specific function, specific structure. We are going to discuss, don't worry about that. So this cytosol plus cell organelles together form the cytoplasm. Alright everyone, now coming to the nucleus. So nucleus is basically like a principal of a school. So how a principal usually they command, like who is going to take the class, he is responsible for the discipline of the school, right? So here nucleus is like that. Nucleus is also known as brain of the cell, director of the cell, then control center of the cell. So why they are called as, like why nucleus is called as this control center of the cell? Because it decides when the cell need to grow and when it need to divide. So most of the processes, most of the information, let's say, when to do what, when the cell have to divide, this all are decided by the nucleus only. It is central, round structure covered by its own membrane. What is this own membrane here? That is the nuclear membrane. Okay. So I told you that the outermost layer of the cell is the plasma membrane. Similarly, if you see the nucleus, this is the nucleus. It has a double layered structure. If you zoom it out, this is how the structure looks like. Okay. This is called as nuclear membrane. And the content inside the nuclear membrane is called as nucleoplasm. Okay. Alright. Fine. So this is all about nucleus. Now inside the nucleus we have a genetic material, that is DNA. Like sometimes people ask, whom do you look like? Do you look like your father? Do you look like your mother? So this genetic information which pass on from parents to offspring is all is present inside this genetic material, right? These are they have the genes, the segment of DNA coding for certain proteins, right? So here it contains the hereditary material, that is DNA or the chromosome. Now coming to the cell wall. Okay, I told you the three basic features. Here we have plasma membrane. I'm just writing PM for that. Then we have nucleus, right? Then here we have the cytoplasm. Okay. Now a part of this, if a cell has an outer layer, one more layer around the plasma membrane, if you see here, this one is the cell wall outside the plasma membrane. Clear everyone? So in your exams they usually ask, where do we see the cell wall? Okay, so usually it is seen in case of plants. A part of that we also see in case of algae, fungi, then here in case of bacteria. I told you that bacteria can be seen anywhere. It's a cosmopolitan. Like if I touch the skin or if I touch somewhere, like n number of bacteria would be on my hand, right? If you see the polar region, there will be definitely one bacteria. But how they are surviving there, how they are surviving this harsh climatic conditions, that's because of this cell wall only, which is helping them to survive or upstand in such a harmful or harsh climatic conditions. Okay. Now coming to the where do they are absent? They are absent in case of animals. We humans, we are animals. In our case, we don't have cell wall. Our outermost layer is plasma membrane. That's it. Right? Then it provides rigidity and strength. It is non-living. Okay? It's non-living and we can understand it is rigid and providing strength. So basically it is providing protection. So it is the one because of which the plant cell sustain harsh climatic conditions. So if you see animals, they can move from one place to another. They can protect themselves. So but plants, it's not like that. Plants have to stay in the same place. So in order to protect themselves, they have to come up with something very strong. So this cell wall, this protects the cell from bursting. Clear everyone? So if you see here, this is the plasma membrane. On outside this, we have the cell wall, right? Alright, clear everyone? Any doubt till now? Yes. Let me check any doubt. Okay. All right, fine. Okay then, alright, fine. So now coming to the plastids. So this is very important everyone. Why very important? In your NCERT they usually ask what is the difference between the plants and animal cell. 1 mark is coming from here. Alright everyone, so what is plastid? So these are the tiny rod shaped structures found within plant cell. A part of this we can see in the algae also, but here we will stick to the plant cell. Now, what are the function of it? It contains pigment. If you see the green color, okay, if you see the leaves around us, young stems, these are green in color, right? Then there are, if you see the radish, or if you see the carrots, orangish in color, right? Who is imparting this color? So it's because of the plastid. So we have 2 types of plastids here, which are imparting colors. We will discuss, don't worry about this. Then it is involved in storage of food materials, if you see in case of roots, right? So plastid, here we have, okay, first let's understand the structure of plastid. So here we have thylakoids. If you see here, this sac-like structures, if you zoom it out, this is the sac-like structures in which we have chloroplast. Okay, then grana is a stack of thylakoids. Just imagine like a piles of coins. If you see one coin, it is thylakoid. Okay, and if you pile up the coins, that is the grana. Okay, so if you see here the inner membrane, actually plastid is what? Double membrane structure. The area which is enclosed by the inner membrane is the stroma, which contains the fluid filled space, which is a fluid filled inner space of the plastid. Stroma lamellae, if you see here, this layer, this membranous structure which connects the grana. So this is the structure of plastid everyone. Alright? Yes. Alright, okay, fine. Okay. Now types of plastid. So here basically we have 3 types of plastid: chloroplast, chromoplast, leucoplast. First let's understand the meaning. First let's try to decode the words. Chloro word is used for green. Okay. So if you see the chloroplast, it contains the pigment that is chlorophyll. And because of this only, we can perform photosynthesis. Because of photosynthesis only, the plants can prepare their own food. So chlorophyll is the function here. Is the pigment present here, and what is the function? It is involved in photosynthesis, right? So it imparts green color to the leaves, to the young stem. Then chromo, what is chromo? Chromo means color. If you see various colors around us, various colors of the flowers, vegetables, fruits, it's all because of a pigment or a plastid which is present here. That is the chromoplast. Okay, it imparts color. And why color? In order to attract pollinators. Okay, why we need to attract pollinators? In order to pollinate. Okay, for pollination. So these two, here we have chloroplast and chromoplast. This imparts color. But apart of this, we have one more, that is leucoplast. So leuco means what? Colorless, or we can say white. Okay. So basically it is not imparting any color. But what happened here? It is involved in storage of various materials like proteins, fats, and in leucoplast is further divided into 3 types. Okay, like we have here aleuroplast, then we have elaioplast. It is somewhat little higher for you, but yes, it is very important for your Olympiads also. Then we have amyloplast. Now what are the function of this? If you see aleuroplast, okay, first, yes, okay, yeah. If you see aleuroplast, it is involved in storage of proteins. Then elio is involved in storage of oil. Then we have amylo word is used for starch. So here it is involved in storage of starch or carbohydrates. Alright everyone. So leucoplast is further divided into 3 types. Clear everyone? Any doubt? Alright. Fine. Okay. Now coming to the vacuole, the second one which we can distinguish, we can put it in the difference between plant and animal, that is the vacuole. So what is vacuoles? These are the membrane bound sac, okay, found in case of, like it is found in both plants and animals. Yes, there is a difference for both of this. So it contains water, food and waste materials. If you see here, this space, this fluid filled space is vacuole and it has the outermost layer. Okay, for example, if you see here, I'm just zooming it out. All right. Okay, this space is the vacuole. Okay, it is surrounded by a layer called as tonoplast. This layer is the tonoplast, single layer. And the content which is present in the vacuole is the cell sap. All right, clear everyone? Okay, fine. So here if you see, there is a difference between plant cell and vacuole cell. The vacuoles which are present in case of plants and which are present in the animals. Very important everyone, very important. In your exams they usually ask, what is vacuole? What is the structure of vacuole? You have to differentiate between the plant cell and animal cell. Alright everyone? So here we have a difference between plant and animal vacuoles. So if you see here, starting with the size. So it is large and prominent. If you see here, here we have difference. See, here we have only single. In the case of plant cell, we have only single vacuole. Whereas if you see in the case of animal cell, we have numerous vacuoles. Right? So the first one here is large, prominent and central. If you see the vacuole, in case of plants, it is occupying the central position. Whereas in case of animal vacuole, it is small and less prominent and numerous. Okay, if you see, okay, here we have difference. See, number, only one large central vacuole in case of plants. In case of animals, we have many, we have numerous vacuoles or not present at all. Okay. Then cell volume. If you take the entire cell, the plant vacuoles, it will occupy almost like 50 to 90% of the volume. Because of this, the nucleus is somewhat pushed towards the periphery because majority of the portion is occupied by the plant vacuole. Then if you see animal vacuole, this occupies very small part of the cell. Okay. Now coming to the function here. So it stores important substances like waste and maintain the shape of the cell, provide strength and support to the plant. Whereas in case of animal vacuoles, it stores certain substances which can be dissolved in water. So this is the difference between the plant and animal vacuole, everyone. All right, clear? Okay, fine. Okay, so this one is in your NCERT questions also. Like if you see the back side, here we have this exercise question. So what is the difference between plant cell and animal cell? Very important, everyone. So if you see the plant cells, first the cell wall. Cell wall is present in case of plants, yes. And if you see the composition, it is made up of cellulose. Whereas in case of animal cell, it is absent. Nucleus present in the periphery. Why periphery? Because the vacuole is occupying the 50 to 90%. Majority portion of the plant cell is occupied by the vacuole. Because of this reason only, the nucleus occupies the periphery. Whereas, if you see in case of animal cells, the vacuoles are numerous and they are completely scattered. They are not occupying the center. They are not taking the majority portion. So that's why the nucleus is present in the center. Clear, everyone? So plastids, in case of plants, it is present. We know, we have learned that there are three types: chloroplast, chromoplast, then leucoplast. Okay? Whereas in case of animal cell, it is absent. Clear? Okay. Then coming to the vacuoles. Yes. So in case of plant cell, we have single, large and central vacuole. Whereas in case of animals, we have numerous, small or absent also. Then coming to the shape. So it is rectangular, rigid in structure. Whereas animal cell, it is irregular and flexible in nature. Why flexible? In order to exchange materials in and out of the cell. Alright? Okay. Okay, Fine, fine. No doubts till now? Okay, fine. So here we have a clear-cut difference between plants and animals. All right, everyone? Now we are going to deal with what is microorganism. So first, let's understand the meaning. So micro means what? Very small. Okay? Organism, living organism, right? So these are very small, microscopic, very, like if you see the size, very less. And we cannot see with the naked eyes. If we cannot see with the naked eyes, what do we need? We need certain objects to see them. Like we have here, like let's say, magnifying glass. We have here microscope. It can be made up of one cell or few cells. It can be unicellular, it can be multicellular too, right? Fine. So if you see the microorganism, it can be unicellular and it can be multicellular also. Like for example, if you see the unicellular organism, like we have here, okay, yes, like we have here bacteria, amoeba, these are unicellular. But coming to the multicellular, we have here like fungi and algae. But here for fungi also we have an exception. We will learn, don't worry. So multicellular, we have fungi and algae, everyone. Coming to the habitats. So I told you in the starting itself that they can survive very harsh climatic conditions. It means there would be certain habitat, like certain adaptation, you can say, right? Because of this, they can survive in very harsh climatic conditions. So if you take any place, you just name it, there would be certain microorganism, definitely. It can be present in soil, it can be present in water, it can be air, food, whatever. Just name it, there would be certain microorganism, definitely would be there. So they can survive very harsh climatic conditions, very harsh places. So it can be a hot spring, it can be an icy region, a polar region where the temperature is very low, or even a desert. So habitat is what? A place where an organism lives, a natural home where an organism lives. Okay. Then coming to the microorganism, the classification of microorganism, it is divided majorly into 4 types. Here we have bacteria, fungi, protozoa and algae. So we are going to discuss about all of these in detail. So starting with the bacteria. So it is single cell. Single cell means what here? They are talking about any unicellular organism, right? It is prokaryotic organism. What is prokaryotic? If you see here, first let's try to decode the word prokaryotic. Okay, so pro means what here? It is primitive. Okay, carrion word is used for nucleus. So here the nucleus is absent. Here the nucleus is not well defined. All right. So it is found everywhere. What is this? It is a cosmopolitan, which can be found everywhere, no matter what. Then example, we have rhizobium. Rhizobium is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. What is this we are going to learn? Don't worry. Okay, so here bacteria can be useful, it can be harmful too. Like if you see the curd formation, like for example, last day, night or something, your mama used the curd as an inoculum and she added that in the milk. Next day you get a curd from this milk. How? It's because of this bacteria only. Then if you say nitrogen fixation. So what happened in nitrogen fixation? There are a lot of, like if you see in the air, nitrogen is present. Plants can use it. But how? What happening to these plants? Why are they not using? Because they are not in a absorbable form, usable form. So this nitrogen in the air is converted into a soluble, an absorbable form so that the plants can use it, because nitrogen is very important for the growth. So this bacteria, these rhizobiums, they are fixing this nitrogen, right? Then if you see the harmful effect also, like cholera. So cholera disease is because of a bacteria that is Vibrio cholerae. Then tuberculosis, very harmful, right? So now coming to the shape of the bacteria. So it has 4 kind of shape. One, bacillus, vibrio, cocci and spirilla. So what are this? Everyone? So yeah. So bacillus here is a rod shaped bacteria. Okay, so here it has a advantage. How they are surviving here in harsh climatic condition? Because they have endospore in them. Okay, so what is this endospore? If I zoom it out, this is how this bacteria looks like. Here we have this endosperm, and this endosperm help the bacteria to survive in harsh climatic conditions. Okay, they can survive dormant stage. Okay, example, we have lactobacillus, a rod-shaped bacteria. Then here, okay, I'm writing here lactobacillus, okay, which is helpful in formation of curd. Then Vibrio. So here, if you see here, it is comma-shaped, okay, comma-shaped bacteria. Then coccus. Coccus word is used for spherical or oval. Example, like we have Streptococcus, Staphylococcus. These are the examples of coccus. Okay, then Spirula, which is a spherical shaped bacteria. So in your exams, they usually ask what are the various shapes of bacteria. So here we have the structure, shape, and the examples. All right. For Vibrio, you can write the Vibrio cholerae, an example. All right. Any doubt, anyone? All right, fine. Now coming to the fungi. Mushroom. Who don't like mushroom? Yes, few exceptions are there. So fungi, it's a group of eukaryotic organisms. Again, here, let's try to decode the word eukaryotic. So what is eukaryotic? So U word is used for true. And karyon? Yes, it's nucleus. So those organisms have true nucleus. And their genetic material is present inside the nucleus only. Those organisms are called as eukaryotic organism. Okay, but if you see in case of prokaryotic, there the genetic material is not present in the nucleus because nucleus is not that clear. So they have a region called as nuclear region where the genetic material is suspended. Right? They are multicellular, means what? They have many cells, more than 2. Okay? But here we have an exception. Biology is full of exceptions, everyone. So here we have unicellular fungi, that is yeast. Very important, everyone. You can get questions in the form of exceptions. Like all the members of the fungi are multicellular, but there is one exception. What is that? That is yeast. Okay. Then we have bread mold, which is Rhizopus. The scientific name is the Rhizopus. Then mushroom. These are examples of fungi, everyone. All right. Okay, all right, fine. Okay, now fungi. Now, it is also a friend, it is also a foe. So, if you see, fungi is very helpful making bread, okay, in making bread. So, what happened here? When we add yeast need to respire. So, when they respire, they release carbon dioxide. Now, this carbon dioxide bubbles. Because of this only, the cakes, if you see the bakery, they all depends on the yeast. Why? Because this makes the cake fluffy, soft. Then we have medicines like we have penicillin, a revolutionary medicine, a revolutionary life-saving drug, an antibiotic. It's a fungi only. Then it is involved in food spoilage, then skin infection like we have ringworm. These are the useful and harmful effects of the fungi, everyone. Okay, then coming to the protozoa, the very common, very popular example is amoeba and paramecium. So it is unicellular, a single-celled organism, and heterotrophic. What does heterotrophic means? Hetero means what? Different. Okay. So what is it? See, autotrophs, auto means what? Self. Those organisms which can prepare their own food are autotrophic. But heterotrophs, they cannot prepare their own food. So what do they need to do? They need to depend on some other organism for food. Such organisms are called as heterotrophs. Alright. Then coming to algae, it can be unicellular, it can be multicellular. Here it is eukaryotic. Alright, everyone. And autotrophic, why autotrophic? Because it can prepare their own food. It's because of the chlorophyll. Okay. So for photosynthesis, one of the raw material, okay, it can take place only in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, right? Then cell wall made up of cellulose. Plant, the cell wall is made up of cellulose. Algae, also made up of cellulose. Example, we have Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra, chlorella. Now coming to the virus. Very important, everyone. It is acellular. What is acellular? If something is starting with A, here A represents the absence of something. That is absence of cells. So what is this? Have you ever watched any hijack movies? Like if you see the hijackers, when they are in the airport, they act like a normal good passenger, right? But when they enter into the flight, they show their colors. They will hijack the flight, right? So these viruses are like that. When they are present outside the host, they are harmless, they are inactive. But once they enter into the host cell, what they do? They inject their genetic material. Inject their genetic material into the host. And what happens here? Into the host. What happens here? They will take up the cellular machinery. Okay, cellular machinery of the host. And what they do once they take up the cellular machinery? They will start replicating themselves. So example, we have influenza virus, coronavirus. Alright everyone. Now let's see the beneficials of microorganisms, how microorganisms are our friends. So if you see in the food industries, okay, so it is useful for making of curd, then cheese, bread, idli, dosa, yogurt. Okay, so what happened here? Like what happened if you see the milk, okay? So what we do, we add some inoculum, the curd. So milk has a sugar called as lactose sugar. Now when we add curd to it, so there is a bacteria, majorly that bacteria is lactobacillus. Now what does lactobacillus do? It converts this lactose into lactic acid. So what is happening here? It is partially digesting the milk, okay? So here bacteria, again that is lactobacillus, which is very useful for making the curd. This is how it is acting as a friend for us. Then coming to the making of bread, which is a very helpful in baking industry, in cake industries. If you see, so yeast, a fungi, a microorganism, a unicellular fungi organism. So what they do when they reproduce, when they respire, they release carbon dioxide. Now when this carbon dioxide bubbles are present in the, or they are trapped in the bread, so what happens when we heat it? This bubbles will escape out. So making a space. So because of this only the dough or the cake becomes soft and fluffy, right? Okay. Then commercial use of microorganisms in making of alcohol, in making process of wines, vinegar. Microorganisms plays very vital role. So what happened here? Like in making, for example, alcohol, certain fruits like grapes, grains, barley, wheat, etc. are used. So for let's say wheat or barley. So let's say here they have natural sugars in them. Okay, natural sugars are present in it. So what this microorganism do? They feed on these. So what happened here? The sugar is converted into alcohol, and this process is called as fermentation. Okay, so this is fermentation. Clear everyone? Okay, fine. Then how these microorganisms are playing key role in cleaning the environment. So what happened? We have learned about decomposition. So what is decomposition? When the organic, or we can say complex organic matter is broken down into simpler forms. Okay, this is called as decomposition. Okay, now who is doing decomposition? That is done by the decomposers, right? So who are these decomposers? They are basically certain bacteria, fungi. Okay, then what happened? What is the simpler form? Like we have here, the formation leads to the manure. So what is manure? Why do we use manures? So basically, manures enrich the soil. So how they are doing it? So if you see here, this manure increases the water holding capacity. Okay, water holding capacity. Then it makes the soil porous. If more the porous the soil is, we can expect more the aeration. Now what will happen if these two things are there? It will definitely increases the soil fertility and promoting healthy plant growth. This is the advantage of manure over the pesticides, right? Then coming to the agriculture. So how agriculture? So what happened here? For let's say I have a piece of land. Okay, let's say here my first crop was our paddy. So what happened here? We know that plants require a lot of nitrogen for the growth. Okay, so here paddy, wheat, they usually take up a lot of nitrogen from the soil for the growth. Now for let's say if I want to grow another crop to let's say on the same piece of land, can I grow properly? No, because majority of the nitrogen is used up by the previous crop, that let's say here paddy. So in order to grow a next crop on that, I want to reach the soil with the nitrogen. So what will I go? I will go for the second crop, that is the leguminous crops, like we have dal family. Pulses. Okay, so I'll go for the leguminous plant. Example, pulses. Example, here we have pulses. So what these pulses do? The pulses here, they have roots. Now if you see, these are the nodules of the leguminous plant. And in these nodules, certain bacteria lives. And what is that? That is the rhizobium. Now what is this rhizobium doing here? It is converting the nitrogen into a usable form so that the plants can use it, can absorb it for the growth. So this is how the microorganisms is helping in the agriculture. Right? Fine. Any doubt? Any doubt, anyone? Okay. Alright, okay, fine. Alright, fine. Moving forward, source of biogas. So biogas can be used in various purposes, for various purposes, like we can use it for cooking, for electricity. So what happened here? The decomposed plants and animal waste, like animal dung, agriculture waste, this all release certain gases, okay? Like majority of it like is methane and carbon dioxide, and this can be used for biofuel majorly. Then coming to the food preservation. Food is very important and we need to preserve it. So what happened? This microorganism can grow in certain conditions, like when there is a good moisture, when there is perfect temperature, op temperature, okay? When there is a pH, this microorganism will grow. So in order to prevent the spoilage of food, we should cut off these things at least, right? So what happened here? Preservation with salt and sugar. How? See what happened here, when there is a higher concentration of salt and sugar, it will use up the moisture present in the food, right? So as a result of what? This microorganism is not able to grow in such a condition. So it prevents the growth of microorganisms. This is how we are preventing the spoilage of the food easily. That's why we go for oil, we go for sugar, we go for salt. This is how we are preventing the food food. Then coming to the microalgae, everyone. So these are the tiny helpers which are present in water. So what are they? These are plant-like organisms which are present in water, soil, air, or even trees. Like if you see the total oxygen present in the earth, like 50% of it is contributed or produced by this microalgae only. So they prepare their own food using sunlight and release oxygen, basically autotrophs only. So, okay, so we have one more here. Alright, so here we have like spirulina. Spirulina is a Superfood. Why spirulina is a superfood, everyone? If you take the 60% of the body of the spirulina, it contains protein only. A part of this, it contains vitamin B12. And if you see the concentration of the fat and sugar also, it is very low. So that's why it is called as superfood, everyone. Alright. So this is how the microorganism is playing a very vital role. It is acting as a friend, it is acting as a foe also. So alright everyone, I'm repeating this again. If you are happy with this content and you want to watch such more videos, you can enroll into the SISYA class courses, and same simple process, you have to just choose the class and enroll. So that's it from my side. If you like the video, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you everyone.